This is the FSU School of Theater Scene Shop training tutorial on the circular saw. So commonly used tool here is the circular saw. Make sure it's disconnected from power before we do any servicing to it. So one thing you've got here is the circular blade and this thumb latch blade guard so that you can sweep that out of the way. If you are operating this saw and you're doing a straight on cut, that blade guard will move out of the way all by itself. If you're going at an angle, you may find that you need to move that yourself. So that's what that thumb lever is for, so you can move that out of the way. Before you begin cutting, make sure that you've set the saw height to an appropriate height. Here you can adjust the amount of overcut that you'll have through the material. So when looking at your material, place it on the side, check to see where you need to be, and then you can change the height to an appropriate level. Right back here is where you loosen the foot plate. You push down at the back, sticking, push down at the back to change the height of the foot plate. There it goes. When you have it set to the appropriate level, lock it in place. This way, when you're cutting on the sawhorses or on one of the auxiliary tables, you don't overcut through much material, particularly on the auxiliary tables where we only allow a little bit of overcut into the table surface because the top sheet is removable and replaceable. But most of these cuts should be done on sawhorses. When you're setting also, you can change the angle of the cut. So there is an angle adjustment here. You can unlock that lever and you can change the foot plate again to an angle adjustment. We have two types of circular saws here. We have a right tilt and a left tilt saw. So depending on which type of angle you need to go at, select the appropriate saw for that. When you're finished with the saw adjustments, make sure you set everything back to the 0 default so that it can go away in the box and the next operator can use it. This is a trigger operated tool, so holding the trigger back here will make the saw blade run. You have to hold the trigger for the entire cutting operation. You can also adjust this knob or this lever where you're holding this. There, you can undo this and sweep it to a different position for your comfort. Also at the front there is a second handhold, so if you prefer to hold it there, you can. Be aware of this blade and its cutting capacity. Make sure you keep your hands and anything you don't want cut away from the blade. Only plug it in when you're ready to go. When you're controlling it, you may want to have a second hand steering it, either holding on to it here or holding on to the foot plate somewhere else. As long as you are in good control of the tool, this is fine. Otherwise, if you've got your hand away, you need to be aware of where it is. I could never make a really good cut with my other hand away. I prefer to have a guide on the foot plate so I can go and do a straight line. Two hands are better than one. If the blade is no good, needs to be changed out, you can do that. Again, unplug. There is a lock switch right here. When you turn the blade to a certain location, that lock switch will drop in and it'll keep the blade from turning anymore. You can get a wrench on this. Remember, it's a reverse thread. Undo this nut, take this blade off. These blades get disposed of. We don't sharpen these blades, so select a new blade and put it on. Be aware of the direction of the cut and the orientation of the blade. So you can see here how these blades rake in this direction. So make sure your new blade gets set up the same way. Tighten it, holding that, tighten with the nut and the wrench provided in the kit. Make sure it's good and then release that and make sure that the blade turns freely before plugging it in and going with the new operation. Safe use of these tools will lead to good cuts. You can provide a lot of things with the circular saw that you can't necessarily do on other tools. So it's a good tool to have in your arsenal, and be aware of how to use it appropriately.